Hey, this is Pastor Micah from Life's Journey, United Church of Christ. Just connecting with you here midweek. Um, this past Sunday, we talked about the story of Abram, Sarah, and Isaac, and how in receiving Isaac back, Abram and Sarah got the message that what God calls us to is mercy, not sacrifice. That God calls us to live out lives of grace. And so often, the message we're told in the church is to sacrifice who we are and what we long for and what we wish. When what God calls us to give and to do is not actually a sacrifice, but a gift not only to God, but also to us and to the wider world. And in that passage that we studied this past week, we thought about the struggle over what to do and how to serve and how to know God's voice. This coming week, when we have our celebration Sunday service, which at Life's Journey is sort of like our homecoming, where we invite friends and family who've been long gone to come and celebrate their time with us at Life's Journey over the years. We'll be celebrating that Sunday at uh, Lake McIntosh. Please reach out to me or to Jan or one of our leaders to just note you want to come if you're joining us. But in the service this Sunday, we're going to look a little bit at the story of Jacob and a dream he has and what it teaches us, and talk about our own dreams and the things that stand in the way of living. And in this period between, the bridge I see between the story we studied this past Sunday and the story we'll be studying in our homecoming service is this. Ultimately, when God calls us to sacrifice or to give, or go beyond what we feel we can do, it isn't so we might suffer and be someone different than God wants to. But the dream we're called to live out is an expression of who we are deeply at our best. The scriptures tell us that how we are made and who we are is a gift. Psalm 139 says to God, "You made all the delicate inner parts of my body. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was together in the dark of the womb. You saw before I was born. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed." A few weeks ago, I told you that how Frederick says the way to know your calling is to look at what the world is struggling for and needs, and then to look at what gives you the most joy and delight, to realize that where they need, that is your calling. And when we talk about how to give and serve God and others in a way that's not a sacrifice in the sense of suffering, but a joy, we're really asking, what is our calling or vocation from God? Because it's not just me, a preacher, who has calling and vocation. You do as well, every person we meet. And I want to just quickly talk in our midweek reflection in this bridge between these two stories. In the midst of your week with all of its busyness, what are some ways we can discern God's calling for us? Because we each have. First of all, we need to listen to our life. In his book, Let Your Life Speak, Quaker author Holker Palmer says, before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. Before you tell your life what truths and values you have decided to live up to, let your life tell you what truths you embody, what values you represent. Our deepest calling is to grow into our own authentic selfhood, whether or not it conforms to some image of who we ought to be. As we do so, we will not only find the joy that every human being seeks, we will also find our path of authentic service. He's saying there that out of the depths of who we are and how we've lived our life, and our life will speak to us if we listen to it. And for him, as a Quaker, a part of that is prayer. In my own life, a form of prayer that's been helpful in discerning my own calling is called the examine prayer. And in the examine prayer, and you can Google this online or email me and I'll give you a little more information. But essentially, at the beginning or the end of the day, maybe both, you take a moment and you think about each hour of the day so far that has gone before you. You pay attention to those moments where you felt God's presence, you felt your heart coming alive, and also those days you felt at odds with God or yourselves or others. And you ask what you learn at each point. Because often if I feel at odds with myself or God or others, I'm not living into who God called me to be, not living into my vocation. But often if my heart is coming alive in a way that blesses others and blesses the world, I'm living into who God called me to be. And so by paying attention to that and then talking to God as you notice those moments and saying, God, what are you teaching me? And the fact I'm coming alive when I'm helping these kids. What are you teaching me? And that when I try to show up and do this thing I thought I should do, my heart is struggling and not at peace. And it may be that you have to let go and you can find peace, but it might also be you're not walking in the path God has for you. In addition to that, an author who really isn't one of my favorite authors, Rick Warren, encourages us to think about this in his book, The Purpose-Driven Life, by looking at the word shape and asking what is the way God has shaped you, according to Psalm 139. And your shape includes your spiritual gifts, your heart passions, your natural abilities, your personality, and your life experiences. So your spiritual gifts are those things that the Holy Spirit gives you when you open your heart to God, that are ways of connecting with God and others that point people to faith. And that can be as varied as being a good listener, preaching and teaching, singing songs that uplift people's spirits. There's as many gifts as there are people. But asking, what are those? And then your heart passions are the things you're passionate about. You might be passionate about creation and nature or animals or healthcare or helping the hurting or working on cars or home repair. What does it teach you that those are your passions? How can they point you to who you're called to be, what you're called to do? Next are your natural abilities. What are you good at? You might be good at art or painting. You might be good at writing, or you might be good at helping people get better when they feel sick. That is also something that points you to what you're called to do. Then you have your personality. You might be an introverted person who really likes to work in libraries or read alone. You might be outgoing and thrive being around people. And the last couple of years, introverts, and I'm an introvert, we've done a lot better because we don't mind being alone and isolated and socially distant. But folks who are extroverted, it's been a real struggle. But whether you're introverted and extroverted, that shows you part of what makes you alive and how to serve. You finally look at your life experiences. Number of members of our church are gay or transgender. And, you've had a lot of life experiences as a straight, cisgender guy I've never had. And some of that might feel like a curse, but it's also a blessing. Anything you've gone through. And those experiences can help you bless others in ways mine can. Similarly, you're raised in a great family. You might have gifts you can bring in relationships you wouldn't otherwise have. But also, if you come from a broken family or have skeletons in your closet, that might help you reach out to and support others who've had tough life experiences. And what Rick Warren is telling us in that purpose-driven life is that as you look to and listen for those blessings and those experiences, your heart passions, just like Palmer said, they can teach you. Because as you live into your fullest self, yes, there will be some sacrifices to make in the sense of I can't feed the homeless and also go to that game sometimes. But when you listen to your heart, the thing God is calling you to do, is the thing that will give you the most passion while also blessing others. And the sacrifice will likely be the thing that doesn't give you life. And so, again, that sacrifice will be its joy. And going on that journey will give you and others life. So I hope that helps you this week connect with how you can be your deepest self and be a blessing for others. God bless you. I hope to see you Sunday at Lake McIntosh for our service. If you can't join us in person, I hope you also can join us on Facebook Live. Know we're all here for you with life's journey. God bless.